Sometimes you have a conversation with someone and it just stays with you. I was having a drink with a clergy colleague a couple of years ago now. We got to talking about what we were preaching on and wrestling with, because that's what clergy people do when they get together. I don't remember the exact text I was working on, but I said something like, I'm trying to figure out how to talk about ethically participating in this economy. And my friend Andrew just looked at me and he said, "Friend, there is no ethical participation in this economy. There just isn't." His comment landed on my insides, and it hasn't let me go. There is no fully ethical way to participate in the systems of empire that we are embedded in. Maybe there are degrees, less harmful, more harmful, but none of us are untouched. No matter how carefully we earn our money or invest it or consume with it, we are entangled in systems that cause harm to beings somewhere. It's a really hard truth to reckon with, but it's not a new one. The communities addressed in the letter to Titus, this pastoral letter to a group of new church followers, and the scene we hear in Mark's gospel are wrestling with something similar. They are trying to figure out how to faithfully live inside harmful systems that they did not choose and cannot control. The letter to Titus is written to a young Christian community, people eager to follow the way, trying to be faithful in the midst of Roman Empire. They had no power, no real agency over the structures shaping their lives. Their new Christian values and ethic often ran counter to the culture around them. And so, of course, they're asking, how do we live as people of faith in a world like this? And the letter offers a complicated answer. It says, participate as you must, obey the laws, function within society. But it says at the same time, be ready for every good work. Stay alert, the letter urges. Stay alert as your embodied Christian self. Don't numb or look away to make it easier to exist in that society. Instead, look for opportunities where you can bring goodness, wholeness, and dignity into that broken system. Don't become complacent. And then comes the harder part. Remember that you too have caused harm. You too have been shaped by these same systems and have perpetuated them, pursuing your own desires, acting out of envy, participating in harm without even realizing it. And yet you have been changed. Not because you figured it all out, not because you made perfect choices, but because of God's mercy. So instead of spending your energy judging others, critiquing how they participate or don't, focus on living out the good that's right in front of you to do. Devote yourself to good works, the letter says. These things are excellent and beneficial to everyone. In other words, give to empire what you must, and give everything else, your heart, your energy, your allegiance, to God, to living out the world that God imagines for us. That teaching is paired today with this familiar moment in Mark's gospel where religious leaders try to trap Jesus. They ask him whether it's lawful to pay taxes to the empire. It's a setup. If he says no, he announces that he's a threat to Rome. He makes himself vulnerable to arrest. If he says yes, then he's undermining his own teachings. So Jesus does what Jesus does. He refuses the trap and sidesteps it. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, he says. Look at that coin right there. Speaking of coins, have you heard that there's a new one being minted? I was like, wow, this week of all weeks. And give to God what is God's. For those of you who don't know, there's a new coin being minted with a certain leader on its face. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, he says, and give to God what is God's. Sounds pretty straightforward, cut and dry, but it is not. It leaves us with the messy, hard, lifelong work of discernment that never ends. What belongs to Caesar? What belongs to God? And how do we live that out in our real, complicated lives? More importantly, how do we refrain from judging others as they also do that same discernment? It's not easy work. Take Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick was a star quarterback in the NFL, leading the San Francisco 49ers to a Super Bowl appearance. He was considered one of the best quarterbacks there is, so I read. At the height of his career, as many of you probably remember, he made a decision that during the national anthem he would kneel. He would kneel in protest of police violence against black and brown bodies. It was a small symbolic act. It was quiet. It was nonviolent. And it ignited a firestorm. That act of resistance, his attempt to live faithfully, to show up with integrity within a broken system, cost him his career. He was cut from the 49ers after that season, and every other team declined to sign him. Most folks believe he was blacklisted by the NFL. And we still have racism. There was no clean, perfect choice for Kaepernick, only a very costly one. Or take Barack Obama, the first black president of the United States, a figure of deep hope and pride for many, and, by the way, a long-term member of the UCC. A leader known for his intelligence, his steady demeanor, his humanity, along with his fire playlists and corny dad jokes. If you want to listen to something new on Spotify, look for his playlists. He was also the president who was finally able to pass the Affordable Health Care Act, which extended health care to millions and saved and is saving lives every day. And he was also a leader who made decisions that did harm within a deeply flawed system. Under his administration, drone warfare expanded 10 times more than it had with the previous administration, killing thousands silently, including civilians. His administration also oversaw a dramatic increase in deportations, deporting more people than had the administrations of the past 3 decades. Obama was also responsible for initiating the partnership between ICE and local law enforcement that Trump inherited, picking up people for deportations who were being held in city and county jails for minor offenses. He was also called the deporter-in-chief. There is no simple moral accounting here. There is no pure path. Just a human being navigating power, responsibility, limitation, trying in his imperfect way to move toward something better. Both of these men live and made decisions inside broken systems. Both made choices about how to act, what to resist, what to participate in. Both attempted to live and act in alignment with a vision of a more just and compassionate world. Faithfulness, it turns out, is not lived in certainty. It's lived in ambiguity. Gosh, I hate ambiguity. The truth is, the world God imagines is not the world that we currently live in. In God's imagination, there is enough for everyone. In God's imagination, bombs do not drop from drones in the sky. In God's imagination, there is enough food, enough care, enough dignity, enough housing, enough healing, enough belonging. And in that world, all the energy we pour out is not trying to figure out what to do, but is directed toward more love, more justice, more belonging. But we don't live there. We live here. And you don't have to be famous to face these impossible decisions. Every day, ordinary people are asked to pour out their energy into imperfect solutions that fall short of what we or the divine long for, but are all that seem to be available within the world as it is. Take caregiving. In the world God imagines, when someone needs additional support, whether because of aging, disability, mental or behavioral health, addiction, they would be surrounded by a web of support. They and their families would not be left to carry this alone. Care would be shared, resourced, sustainable, easy to find. People could tend to their loved ones without losing themselves, but that is not the system we have. Instead, most caregiving of children, young adults, older adults, people with disabilities, it falls on families, often just one or two people who are stretched to their limits to create a system that doesn't exist. And when you're living with or caring for someone at the edge of your mental and physical capacity, safety can then sometimes begin to erode for the both of you. I know many in you in this congregation who are facing this or have faced it, including Leif and I. And at that point, what once felt unthinkable can start to seem like the wisest option. Moving your loved one into institutional care, whether that be assisted living or a group home or even jail. These systems are not ideal, typically. They are often simultaneously under-resourced, yet remain crushingly expensive. They create separation in families who love one another. Neither option reflects God's dream. And yet these are the choices that people have. So families make the best decisions they can within fragmented system. And this is where these scriptures meet us. They remind us that there is no perfect solution in this world. We can only do the best we can with the clarity and capacity that we have, and then extend the same mercy to others that God extends to us, and then join God in imagining what else could be. What else could be? God imagines a world where our lives are fully aligned with love and justice, but in the meantime, we live in this imperfect system. So faithfulness is not about finding the perfect answer. It's about choosing our allegiance, the focus of our love and our energy. So maybe the question shifts. Not what is the perfect decision, but instead, to whom am I loyal? True allegiance isn't about policing each other's choices. It's about aligning our lives as best we can with God's imagined world, and then imagining with God what else we can create together. It's about acting with humility instead of self-righteousness, with honesty about our own complicity, and trusting God's mercy. We are participants in God's unfolding vision. We are partners in the work of imagination. We won't live this out perfectly, but we can live it with integrity. And we can extend grace to others who are trying to do the same. So friends, may we be a people not united by perfect agreement, but by a shared commitment to live toward God's imagined world together, imperfectly, faithfully. And the people say, Amen.